Samadhi's deepest secret, a Buddhist key to inner freedom. Have you ever felt it, that quiet ache, that strange whisper inside, as if you're living someone else's life? As if every joy and every pain were not truly yours, but just passing scenes in a fleeting dream? Sometimes it feels like the world around us is too fragile, too unreal, as though it might dissolve the very moment we try to hold on to it. Deep inside, though, there is something waiting, a hidden key, and it has the power to open the door of freedom. Many of us know what it is to feel trapped, trapped by stress, trapped by fear, trapped by heartbreak. We keep asking ourselves if true freedom is possible, and yet, it always feels just out of reach. But Buddhism reminds us of a profound truth: it is not in chasing external success, it is not in clinging to possessions, and it is not in the approval of others. The real path to freedom lies in the quiet stillness of our own minds. One ancient teaching says it beautifully: reality is as fragile as dew on a lotus, or as brief as a flash of lightning. It comes, and then it goes, before we can even name it. That is why the Buddha revealed the secret of freedom. It is about waking up from this dreamlike life, seeing things as they truly are, and finding peace in what cannot be shaken. When you realize this, when you truly feel it, you discover that inner freedom is not far away. It has always been here, within you, waiting for you to awaken to it. Imagine lying awake at night, burdened by your worries, unable to escape the endless stream of thoughts. Perhaps you replay painful memories again and again, wishing you could change the past, or maybe you anxiously fear tomorrow, imagining problems before they even arrive. In those dark moments, the mind does what it always does: it churns and twists and spins stories that feel so real. Anger, regret, loneliness, they all arise like waves, and yet, none of it lasts. Still, in the silence of the night, it can feel overwhelming, almost unbearable. Buddhism calls this the sleep of ignorance, and awakening from it is said to be the very heart, the very essence, of enlightenment. It is a profound shift, as if you suddenly realize that all the storms inside you were only passing clouds, and behind them, the sky was always clear. One teacher even observes that Buddhism has always been deeply connected with sleep, with the mystery of it, with the depth of it, with the truth that we are strangely most alive in deep, dreamless sleep, and yet most asleep in the busy rush of our everyday life. This is not meant to glorify laziness or romanticize lethargy. Rather, it points us toward a radical and transformative insight: when the mind is entirely free of distraction, when it is untouched by the endless noise of thought, whether in meditation or even in dreamless sleep, it naturally touches something pure. It touches a clarity, a calmness, a peace so deep that no achievement, no possession, no external success could ever match it. And that peace, once you feel it, once you taste it, you begin to see that this is what you've been searching for all along. It does not come from outside, it does not depend on the world. It has always been within you, quietly waiting for the moment you awaken to it. The great Tibetan master Lama Yeshe once explained that our mind is not limited to the fragile boundary of this body. It does not end when the body ends; instead, it continues, flowing from one life into another like a river without beginning or end. What does this mean for us? It means that the patterns, the impressions, and the karma of our past lives do not simply vanish. They live on. They shape the very fabric of our present experiences, our joys, our struggles, even the way we respond to life's challenges. But here lies the most hopeful truth: karma is not destiny written in unbreakable stone. It is not a life sentence that we must suffer without choice. Instead, it is a living, breathing process. And because it is alive, because it is dynamic, it can be transformed. We hold the key. We can change it. One modern teacher beautifully illustrated this with a story from the Buddha's own life. When a jealous cousin, blinded by envy, tried to kill the Buddha by rolling a massive boulder down upon him, the Buddha did not curse him, nor did he cry out in fear. Instead, with serene calm, he simply said, "It is karma. You don't do anything. We will not react." Think about it, in that moment, where others might have chosen vengeance, anger, or despair, the Buddha chose compassion. He chose wisdom. He chose love. This story carries a timeless lesson. Even in the darkest and most painful moments of our lives, we are not helpless victims. We always have a choice. We can meet hatred with hatred, or we can meet it with understanding. We can deepen the cycle of suffering, or we can rise above it with clarity and grace. As Sri Sri Ravi Shankar reminds us, turning the other cheek is not weakness. It can, in fact, be a greater strength, a bigger weapon. Why? Because it refuses to add more pain to pain, more violence to violence. It breaks the chain. It reminds us that the true power lies not in revenge, but in wise action, in compassion, in the courage to love when it is hardest to do so. And so, every time life tests us, every time anger burns or fear overwhelms, we are offered the same choice. It is here, in those very moments, that we discover who we really are. It is here that we can change not only our karma, but the karma of the world. Awakening to this freedom, the Buddha said, is not only possible, it is the very aim, the heartbeat, the essence of all his teachings. Every word he spoke, every path he pointed to, carried within it this promise of freedom. The great teacher Jack Kornfield reminds us of this again and again. He says that every Buddhist practice, every Dharma training, every meditation you sit for, and every moment of awareness you bring into your life ultimately aims at one thing, to free the heart. Jack Kornfield recalls the Buddha's words, "If it were not possible to free the heart from entanglement in unhealthy states, I would not teach you to do so. But because it is possible, only because it is possible, do I offer these teachings." Can you feel it? The compassion, the faith, the absolute certainty shining through those words. It is as if the Buddha is looking directly into your heart and saying, "You can do this. You are not broken. Freedom is your birthright." In other words, no matter how lost you feel, no matter how heavy your burdens, no matter how broken your spirit seems, there is something deeper within you that already knows the truth. It knows liberation is not only possible, it is waiting for you. The Buddha himself declared with clarity that all his teachings, every single one, have but one taste, the taste of liberation. And that taste is not bitter, not harsh, not beyond your reach. It is the taste of pure freedom, the sweetness of a heart released from chains. This is the great promise at the core of Samadhi. Samadhi, a word that means not just focus, but total, unwavering concentration of mind, a gathering of all your scattered energy into stillness. When you taste Samadhi, even for a moment, you realize it, the freedom you've been searching for outside has always been inside. It is not something far away. It is not hidden in another life, another time, another place. It is here, now, in the stillness of your own being. And once you glimpse it, even for an instant, you can never forget it. It becomes the guiding light, the compass, the promise that no matter how dark life seems, freedom is possible, because it has already touched you. Finding the still point, Samadhi's secret. What, then, is Samadhi? How can we even begin to describe it? In the simplest of terms, it is the profound state of meditative absorption where the restless waves of the mind finally become utterly still. It is like a vast, silent ocean after the storm has passed, thoughts quiet down, sensory impressions slowly fade, and the tight sense of a separate self begins to dissolve like mist under the rising sun. And in that stillness, in that silence, something extraordinary, almost unspeakable, begins to happen. We glimpse our true nature. It is not something new. It is not something borrowed from outside. It is the awareness that has always been here, silently watching, silently waiting behind all experiences. One modern commentary even calls Samadhi the secret of secrets, the hidden doorway that leads to oneness with the source of all being. It whispers to us, the still point cannot be reached by movement. If you want to realize the still point beyond thinking, let go of all interest in thoughts, let go of sensations, and simply rest in naked awareness. Think about it, we spend our whole lives chasing after thoughts, running after sensations, clinging to desires and fears, but the secret is this, the freedom we seek cannot be found in more movement. It is found in letting go. It is found in resting. It is found in being. Samadhi's secret is not about adding something new to your life, it is about releasing what you no longer need. It is the art of dropping the inner chatter, of letting go of preferences, judgments, and fears, and simply being as you are, pure, open, radiant awareness. And when you allow it, when you finally let go enough to taste it, you discover that this still point has always been here. It is not far away. It is not a prize waiting at the end of struggle. It is your own essence, your own being, shining quietly beneath the noise of the mind. In that moment, you see clearly, the secret of Samadhi is not hidden in the future. It is not locked in books or distant teachings. It is here, now, as close as your next breath, waiting for you to rest in it. Think of Samadhi like the center of a storm. All around, the wind howls and the rain lashes, the churning mind never stops moving, restless, pulling you in every direction. And yet, right at the eye of the hurricane, there is a silence, a perfect calm, untouched and unmoved. That calm is awareness itself. That calm is the truth of who we are beneath all the noise. The Buddha taught that this calm center is not different for me, for you, or for anyone. It is the same stillness at the heart of every being. It is who we truly are when all else is stripped away. But here is the challenge, reaching it requires an act of profound intention. It requires deliberately, courageously, choosing not to react to the storm. The sutras remind us that a wise person sees the world as, like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow. Why? Because when you look deeply, you begin to realize that what once felt so solid, so overwhelming, was never as real as it seemed. When you meditate deeply, you begin to taste this truth. You begin to feel it in your bones. That mountain of worry you carry, the reputation you cling to, the success you crave, the failures you fear, all of it starts to lose its sharpness. It begins to feel lighter, less threatening, less absolute. And in its place arises something softer, gentler, equanimity. In this state, pain may still be present, but it does not consume you. Fear may arise, but it does not chain you. The storm may still rage outside, but it no longer dictates the weather of your heart. Instead, peace begins to bubble up from within, quietly, steadily, like a spring that has always been there, waiting for you to notice it. And then, something miraculous happens, you see that the world has not changed at all. The noise is still there, the chaos is still there, the storms still swirl. But you are different. You have touched the still point inside it. You have tasted the center, the eye of the storm, and once you know it, once you feel it, you can return to it again and again. This is Samadhi's gift, not escape from the world, but the realization that within the very heart of it, there is a freedom, a stillness, a peace that nothing can take away. This is Samadhi's deepest secret, inner freedom does not come from changing the outer world. It does not depend on bending life to your desires, or making people behave the way you want them to. True freedom arises from something far more intimate, far more powerful. It comes from changing your relationship to the world. When you stop running after every thought, when you stop chasing every feeling, when you stop letting fear pull you one way and craving pull you another, something profound begins to unfold. The mind, which was once like a wild storm, slowly begins to settle. And in that stillness, you taste it, a freedom so deep, so unshakable, that no person and no circumstance can ever take it away. The Holocaust survivor and psychologist Viktor Frankl, drawing on wisdom that resonates deeply with Buddhism, once spoke these unforgettable words from an Auschwitz bunker: "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." Think about that. His body was imprisoned, his future uncertain, his loved ones taken from him, and yet he discovered that even there, at the edge of human suffering, something remained untouchable. It was his freedom to choose how he related to his suffering. It was his freedom to choose his attitude. And what Frankl discovered in the darkness of Auschwitz echoes what the Buddha taught beneath the Bodhi tree. No matter what storm surrounds us, no matter how painful life becomes, there is always one space that remains free. Meditation is the training ground where we remember this. It teaches us not to be tossed about by every thought, not to drown in every fear, not to clutch at every passing desire. Instead, it teaches us to rest in awareness itself, to meet life from the still point within. This is Samadhi's promise. The world may not change. People may not change. Circumstances may not bend to your will. But the moment you change your relationship to it, the moment you choose your inner attitude with wisdom and love, everything shifts. What once felt like chains now feels like air. What once felt unbearable becomes something you can hold with compassion. And in that shift, you discover that true freedom was never outside of you. It was always here, waiting for you to awaken to it. The dream of life, consciousness in sleep and waking. If our waking life is often like a dream we walk through with open eyes, Buddhism goes even further and teaches that the dreams we see at night can themselves become a gateway to awakening. Imagine that, even in the quiet of sleep, even in the fragile world of dream images, there is a path to freedom. In the earliest texts, the Buddha himself advised his monks to fall asleep with mindfulness. He said it was not a small thing, not a mere ritual. It helps prevent negative dreams, yes, but more importantly, it plants the seed of awareness in the deepest layers of the mind. Centuries later, great Indian and Tibetan masters carried this seed forward and gave rise to the profound practice known as dream yoga, the art of becoming lucid, mindful, and awake not only during the day, but also within the shifting landscapes of sleep itself. They recognized something radical: dreams are not meaningless shadows. Dreams are the mind's wild frontier, a vast space where illusions dance freely. And once those illusions are recognized for what they are, they do not trap you anymore. Instead, they reveal something deeper, something truer, the luminous nature of the mind itself. Modern teachers like Charlie Morley remind us that dream yoga was woven into ancient tantric teachings such as the 6 dharmas of Naropa, practices designed not just for better sleep, not just for clarity in dreams, but for the highest aim, full enlightenment. The insight here is breathtaking: if you can master your mind in dreams, you can master it in death itself. And if you can master it in death, then you transcend the cycle of suffering entirely. Think about the power of this. We spend 1/3 of our lives asleep. Most of us waste it in unconscious wandering. But the masters tell us that even this time can be transformed. Even the dream state can become practice. It means every moment, waking or dreaming, holds the key to freedom, if only we learn how to use it. This is the great invitation of dream yoga, to realize that the boundaries we draw between waking and sleeping, between life and death, are thinner than we think. And once you see it, once you taste it, you begin to understand that liberation is not found only in monasteries or mountaintops. It is here, now, woven through every breath, every thought, every dream. What does this look like in practice? In Western terms, we call it lucid dreaming. It is the art of becoming aware in the middle of a dream, of waking up while still asleep. To train for it, you learn to notice dream signs, strange clues that signal you are not in waking life. Perhaps it is a flying elephant soaring through the sky, or a city so impossible it could never exist in the ordinary world. And when you notice it, when you finally recognize it, something clicks. Ah, this is a dream. But here is the subtle danger. Lucid dreaming, if left only at that stage, can easily become another playground for fantasy. You might use it to indulge desires, to fly, to explore, to create endless illusions. And while that may be entertaining, some teachers warn that it can simply become another form of super samsara, a shinier prison, a more colorful illusion, but still an illusion. Dream yoga, however, points to something deeper. It invites us to use dreams not as escape, but as a laboratory for awakening. Imagine this: you find yourself trapped in a nightmare. The fear rises, your heart pounds, and panic claws at you. But suddenly, you recognize it: this is a dream. In that instant, everything changes. Instead of running, instead of waking up in terror, you turn toward the fear. You face it directly. Perhaps you even shout into the darkness, "I am dreaming." And as the words leave your lips, you watch it happen: the monsters dissolve, the shadows vanish, and the terror that felt so real a moment ago evaporates into nothing. What changed? Not the dream itself, but your relationship to it. And in that moment, you realize something profound: fear itself is just a story your mind creates. It is not solid, it is not absolute, it is not inherently real. What made it terrifying was not the thing itself, but your belief in it. This is the heart of dream yoga's wisdom. If you can transform fear in a dream by seeing it for what it is, you can begin to transform fear in waking life, too. You see that the same principle applies everywhere. What binds us is not reality, but the way we cling to it, believe in it, and react to it. The dream becomes a mirror, showing us that freedom is possible the very moment we learn to see through the illusion. One sacred text on dream yoga gives us a remarkable instruction: transform dream objects as you will. Imagine this: in your dream, you come across a heavy, locked door, a barrier that refuses to let you pass. Instead of struggling, you shift it, you turn that closed door into an open window filled with light. And suddenly, freedom appears where there was only resistance. This is not just childlike daydream play. It is training. Tibetan master Tenzin Wangyal teaches that by practicing this kind of fluidity inside dreams, we discover something extraordinary. Depression can be transformed into happiness, fear into courage, anger into love. It becomes possible because, in the dream, the mind learns flexibility, the ability to reshape what once felt rigid and unchangeable. The dream itself becomes a great mirror. It shows us, over and over again, that everything we experience is malleable. What seems fixed, what seems solid and heavy, what feels like an unmovable wall of pain, actually melts the instant we recognize it for what it truly is: a projection of the mind. And when we see it, when we recognize it as illusion, something inside us softens. This insight carries far beyond sleep. If in the fragile world of dreams we can learn to handle chaos, fear, and even nightmares without panic, then in waking life we can do the same. When a crisis erupts, when life throws us into confusion, we begin to remember, it too is not absolute. It too is a projection. It too can be transformed. Slowly, we awaken, not just from the dream of the night, but from the dream of ordinary life. We start to see our habits, our old patterns, even our darkest emotions, not as prisons but as clay in our hands. They can be reshaped, reformed, even transcended. The practice whispers to us again and again, nothing is fixed, everything can change. And the more we train, the more we realize, it is possible to awaken, here and now, through the very fabric of our dreams. Beyond the fleeting landscapes of dreams, advanced practitioners take yet another step inward, into the mysterious realm of sleep yoga. This is not just meditation during waking hours, not even meditation within the dream. It is meditation that reaches into the very core of sleep itself, into that deep, formless silence where most of us believe nothing exists. For the ordinary sleeper, deep sleep feels like a blackout, a plunge into nothingness, a space where memory fails and consciousness seems to vanish. But for the yogi, that very void is not emptiness, it is a doorway. It is the gateway to the purest form of awareness. Lion's Roar magazine describes it with striking clarity. In sleep yoga, your body goes into sleep mode, but your mind stays awake. You drop consciously into the very core of your being, the most subtle formless awareness. In other words, while the body rests like a still lake, consciousness does not drown in darkness. It shines, steady and timeless, like a hidden sun that never sets. We usually forget this light every morning when we wake, as though daylight blinds us to the inner sun that was glowing all night. But when it is pointed out, when a teacher guides us, we realize, this light has always been here. It is as real, as radiant, as undeniable as sunlight itself, though we tend to notice it only when reflected on the objects of thought and sensation. The sleep yogi learns to stay awake inside this nothingness. To recognize that what appears to be empty is in truth full of presence, full of clarity, full of the infinite stillness that underlies all things. Nothingness is not nothing. It is awareness itself, pure and formless, untouched by time or dream. This realization is profound. It means that even in the deepest sleep, when the body lies motionless, when the world has dissolved into silence, it remains. Awareness remains. Consciousness is never lost, only unnoticed. And the great secret of sleep yoga is learning to rest in this ground of being, to dwell in it knowingly, until you awaken to the truth that it was always here. Slowly, you begin to see, the blackout was never a blackout. The void was never empty. It was, and is, the vast, boundless field of pure awareness. The practice reveals to us again and again, it is possible to remain awake even in sleep, because the essence of who we are never truly sleeps. Here's a striking and often overlooked Buddhist insight: dreamless sleep itself is not emptiness, but the presence of non-dual awareness. Think about that for a moment. We are conditioned to believe that when we fall into deep, dreamless sleep, there is nothing, just a void, a blackout. But the great teachers tell us something astonishing: even in that formless silence, awareness remains. When we shift our attention inward, trying to notice this dreamless state, something peculiar happens. The ego, that familiar inner voice, often resists. It cries out, "That can't be me. I am somebody, I think, I feel, I remember. Without thoughts, I disappear." And with that fear, with that protest, we usually drift back into unconscious sleep. Yet the practice gently whispers another truth: actually, that very formless emptiness is as much you as any thought, as any memory, as any sensation. Imagine it like floating in the vastness of outer space. At first, all you see is endless darkness, stretching in every direction. You might think, this is nothingness. But then, suddenly, a single star appears. Its light does not erase the darkness, it simply reveals it. You realize the darkness was always there, silent and boundless, holding the star within it. In the same way, as long as no thought arises, awareness feels like darkness. It is not the absence of awareness, it is awareness without an object. Dreamless sleep, then, is not unconsciousness. It is the mind turning its own flashlight inward, pointing directly into the vastness of its own being. It is like a torch shining into infinite space, and realizing the space itself is what makes the light possible. What we usually call nothing is actually a profound something, a pure, open, limitless awareness that does not need thoughts, images, or stories to exist. This teaching is radical because it changes how we see ourselves. It suggests that who we are is not limited to the chatter of the mind, not reduced to the stream of dreams, not even bound by the waking identity we cling to. It is deeper. It is quieter. It is the unbroken field of awareness present in dream, in wakefulness, and yes, even in the stillness of dreamless sleep. To awaken to this truth is to discover that the darkness we fear is not the enemy. It is not a void waiting to swallow us. It is the very ground of being, the silent presence that has been holding us all along. Through the ancient practices of dream yoga and sleep yoga, Buddhists prepare themselves not just for waking up more fully in this very life, but also for facing the ultimate and most mysterious threshold of all, death. The Dalai Lama himself points out something profoundly moving: the stages of falling asleep mirror, almost step by step, the stages of dying. Just as the outer senses shut down at night, just as images fade and thoughts dissolve when we drift into sleep, so too does the body and mind gently release their grip when life itself begins to slip away. To most of us, that thought feels terrifying. We fear the unknown, we resist the silence, we fight against letting go. But the teachings say something different. If we train the mind, if we prepare ourselves, if we learn to recognize the stages of sleep as rehearsals for the stages of death, then what once seemed like an enemy suddenly becomes a guide. It is no longer a fall into nothingness, it is a return into awareness. Think of it like this: every night, we enter a kind of little death. The body becomes heavy, the senses withdraw, the mind unravels its stories. Yet we wake again in the morning, renewed. Death, from this perspective, is not the end but the deepest sleep, and with practice, it can be met not with panic, but with presence. By learning how to let go in sleep, the yogi learns how to let go in dying. And the message that flows through all of these practices, whether in the stillness of meditation, in the illusions of dreams, in the silence of deep sleep, or even in the final breath of life, is one and the same: consciousness itself is not your enemy. It can be transformed into your greatest friend. It is the companion that never abandons you, the light that flickers even in darkness, the awareness that holds you when everything else falls away. So when we approach death, or any ending, with this training, we no longer see it as destruction. We see it as transition, as opening, as returning home to what has always been here. And suddenly, death itself whispers the same truth that sleep yoga reveals each night: there is nothing to fear, because who you are is not ending. Who you are is awareness, and it is unbroken. Beyond the body, astral journeys and the power of the mind. In today's world, many spiritual seekers speak of astral projection or out-of-body experiences. The idea of leaving behind the physical shell and traveling freely through unseen realms has fascinated humanity for centuries. Buddhism, though often using a different language, holds a similar vision, but with a clarity that grounds it in practice and discipline rather than fantasy. In the ancient Pali Canon, the Buddha himself describes such possibilities. In the Samanaphala Sutta, he reveals that advanced meditators, through deep and unwavering concentration, can access supernormal abilities. One striking example is the creation of what he calls the mind-made body, the Manimayakaya. Imagine it, the practitioner, through the sheer power of stillness and focus, learns to draw forth a body made not of flesh and blood, but of pure mind and energy. And what can this mind-made body do? The texts paint a picture both poetic and awe-inspiring. The adept goes unimpeded through walls, through ramparts, through mountains, as though they were made of empty space. Solid matter no longer binds him. He dives in and out of the earth itself as easily as a swimmer slips into water. He walks across rivers and oceans without sinking, as though water had become solid ground beneath his feet. And then, the imagery rises even higher. Sitting cross-legged, calm and serene, he soars through the open sky like a bird riding the winds, carried not by wings but by the boundless lightness of awareness itself. And beyond even that, the scriptures say, he can reach out and touch the very sun and moon, as though holding them in the palm of his hand. For the modern mind, such images may sound mythical or exaggerated. But the Buddha's teaching points to something deeper, that the mind, when freed from the chains of distraction, possesses a vast, untapped power. It is not bound by the limits we assume. It is not caged within the body. When trained and purified, it can expand, it can travel, it can create, it can transcend. The message is not that we must all fly through the skies or walk upon water, but that these stories remind us of the astonishing potential hidden within. They tell us that what feels impossible is not always so, that the mind is far greater than the boundaries we give it. And whether or not we ever touch the sun or walk across the seas, the teaching itself shines a light on a profound truth. When we go beyond the body, beyond the ordinary sense of me, we discover that the mind itself is limitless. At first glance, these descriptions of monks soaring through the sky or walking upon water might feel like fables, like fantastic myths told to inspire awe. But in truth, they are not meant merely as spectacle. They point towards something far more profound, the ultimate freedom of the mind. If a monk can do these extraordinary things, it is not because the external world suddenly bends to his command. It is because his mind has transcended the ordinary limits we mistake for reality. The mind-made body is not about magic tricks or supernatural power, it is like the conscious projection of awareness itself, a living demonstration that consciousness is not chained to flesh and bone. It shows us a radical possibility: your true self does not end at your skin. It is not confined by muscles, nerves, or blood. When the mind is stilled and clarified through meditation, layers of consciousness begin to unfold, each one more subtle than the last. There is you as you sit in your body, breathing. There is you as a lucid dreamer, walking through dream worlds with open eyes. There is you as an angelic traveler, soaring beyond landscapes of form and thought. And ultimately, there is you as vast as the Buddha himself, filling the entire universe, reflecting the infinite Dharma body, that universal Buddha nature which takes on countless forms to guide and awaken. Mahayana Buddhism often speaks of this mystery. The mind-made forms of great beings are compared to the skillful manifestations of the Dharma body, forms created not to impress, but to serve, to teach, to awaken others. The mind, when liberated, becomes like a cosmic artist, able to paint reality with strokes of wisdom and compassion. Of course, such mastery is not something gained in a single night of meditation. It is not the prize of beginners, but the fruit of long, patient, dedicated practice. Yet even hearing these stories serves a purpose. They remind us that the Buddha's path is not about making the mind more rigid or more powerful in an ordinary sense. It is about freeing it, loosening the chains of illusion until it becomes boundless. And when it is free, the mind is no longer heavy or limited. It becomes fluid, like the formless sky stretching in every direction. It can flow, it can mold, it can create, it can dissolve. It reveals itself as something far greater than we ever imagined. It is not trapped. It is spacious. It is radiant. It is the ground from which every reality, every form, every dream arises. In this way, what seems at first like a fantastic tale of monks walking through walls is really an invitation to discover the vast potential of your own awareness. To see that your mind, once freed, is as open and creative as the universe itself. The threads of karma and the journey of self. When we speak about freedom, about liberation of the heart and mind, a natural question arises: what about karma, and what about the weight of past lives? Buddhism teaches us that every action carries consequences, not only in this lifetime, but echoing across lifetimes like ripples on an infinite ocean. Lama Yeshe explains this with great clarity: whatever joy you taste today, whatever suffering you endure, it is not random, it is not punishment, it is the unfolding result of countless causes planted long ago. But here is the key: karma is not a curse. It is not destiny carved into stone. It is a natural phenomenon, a process as real and neutral as gravity. Imagine karma as a musical record. When you keep pressing the same record, the same song plays. If the record is filled with anger, resentment, or fear, that is the melody your life repeats. But when you learn to change the record, when you choose a different groove, a different track, suddenly the music shifts. A new song begins. And the truth is, you hold that power in your own hands. It is within you to change the record, to rewrite the song. Think of this not as abstract philosophy, but in the intimate language of your own life. Have you ever felt drawn to someone with an intensity you can't explain? Or stood in a place you've never been before and felt, I know this. I have been here. Or perhaps you've carried guilt, fear, or longing that seems to have no roots in this life. According to Buddhist teachers, these moments are not illusions. They are echoes. They are the quiet voice of the past calling into the present. Lama Yeshe even shares stories of people, children in the West, ordinary men and women, who suddenly recall vivid memories of another life. A child describing a village that no longer exists. An adult recounting details of a life as a soldier, a healer, a monk, or a farmer, memories that cannot be explained by logic alone. And while skeptics may dismiss these as coincidence, Buddhism sees them as signs that the story of consciousness is vast, spanning far beyond the narrow window of one lifetime. So pause for a moment and imagine, beneath your daily identity, beneath your name, your family, your work, your struggles, a much grander story has been unfolding for eons. You could be the same awareness that once plowed the fields in ancient China, stood as a warrior beneath medieval skies, prayed as a monk on a Himalayan peak, or walked as a healer through the deserts of the Middle East. The body changes, the names change, the costumes shift, but the thread of consciousness remains unbroken. That thread is karma, weaving scene after scene, lifetime after lifetime, into a tapestry so vast that only stillness can begin to glimpse it. And yet, Buddhism insists, this tapestry is not fixed. Karma does not imprison you. Karma teaches you. It shows you the pattern you have woven with your actions, and then it whispers, you can choose again. The needle is still in your hand. The thread is still alive. It is possible to create a new design, to sing a new song, to walk a new path. This is the hope at the heart of karma, not chains, but choice. Not punishment, but possibility. And the more we awaken, the more clearly we see that the journey of self is not small, not fleeting, not bound to a single chapter. It is vast. It is luminous. It is the unfolding story of awareness itself, stretching across lifetimes, carrying you toward freedom. Breaking the cycle, choosing liberation. But knowing this, truly realizing it in your heart, can be liberating, not paralyzing. It means that even if a situation looks destined, even if it feels stamped with the weight of karma, you still have choices. You still carry the power to shift the story. As Sri Ravi Shankar beautifully reminds us through the Buddha's own example, you do not have to bow down to the voice that says, "This is fate, and nothing more." No, fate is not the end of the story. It is simply the starting point from which you rise. Think about it, maybe you were kind in the past, and strangely, life still brings you hardship today. Maybe you offered generosity, and in return, you received betrayal. You cannot change the past action, you cannot rewrite the record that has already been played, but what you can do is decide what song you will put on next. You can choose today. And that choice is everything. Will you spiral into resentment, replaying the old wounds again and again until they harden into bitterness? Or will you be the one who breaks the cycle, who transforms the heavy stone of karma into the blossoming flower of compassion? The Buddha's life whispers the answer, again and again. He stood before hatred, cruelty, misunderstanding, and yet, he refused to let those forces consume him. Instead, he responded as love incarnate, as pure awareness, as a mirror of infinite patience. It is in that choice, the choice to meet darkness with light, that freedom begins. And here is where all the spiritual practices we've explored come together, weaving into one great thread of liberation. Samadhi, mindfulness in dreams, the gentle awareness of sleep meditation, even the mysterious teachings of past lives, they all point in the same direction, self-improvement and liberation. They are not abstract rituals. They are tools. Subtle, yes, but infinitely powerful tools that shape the very landscape of consciousness. Every time you practice selflessness, even in a small act, you loosen the grip of old patterns. Every time you choose compassion over judgment, you weaken the karmic chain. Every time you watch a thought rise and fall without reacting, you step into freedom from it. And in those quiet victories, something profound is happening. It is the mind learning to set itself free. If you recognize dreamless sleep as stillness, you begin to notice that same silence within your waking heart. If you train yourself to see anger without becoming anger, suddenly anger itself transforms, its fire softens into warmth. Fear, once sharp and suffocating, loses its intensity, like thunder dissolving into distant rain. Sorrow, instead of drowning you, opens into appreciation, a doorway to tenderness, to gratitude, to love. This is the revolution meditation offers. Not in a single day, not in one moment of practice, but through countless small victories. Each breath taken in awareness, each thought released instead of clung to, each compassionate choice, all of it reverberates through your being. The chains of the past grow lighter. The shadows lose their power. And step by step, you discover that liberation is not a distant dream but a living possibility. Because in the end, every practice, every choice, every realization teaches the same truth: it is possible. It is possible to free yourself. It is possible to live with love. It is possible to transform karma, to reshape destiny, to awaken. Stories of transformation. These teachings, Samadhi, mindfulness, sleep meditation, the understanding of karma, might at first seem abstract, even distant. They can feel like lofty ideas spoken in ancient texts, far removed from the realities of ordinary life. But when we ground them in human stories, in lived experience, their power becomes undeniable. It is in these stories that the teachings come alive. Take, for example, Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist who survived the unimaginable horrors of the Holocaust. In the depths of that terror, surrounded by death, deprivation, and despair, he discovered something astonishing, a tiny spark that could not be extinguished. Even in a Nazi concentration camp, stripped of possessions, dignity, and control over his life, he realized, everything can be taken from us but one thing, the freedom to choose our attitude in any given circumstance. This freedom, invisible, internal, yet unbreakable, mirrors the wisdom of the Buddha. No external circumstance, no oppressive power, no cruelty of others can touch it. It resides within, waiting for recognition, waiting to be claimed. And there are modern examples too. Consider prisoners at Alabama's maximum security prison, men confined by walls, bars, and the weight of their past actions. When introduced to meditation retreats, their lives began to shift in profound ways. Men once ruled by anger, bitterness, and guilt reported an unexpected transformation, deep peace, clarity, even compassion blossoming in the heart. One man recounted that as he meditated, he began to hear the Buddha's name softly echoing in his mind. It was not magic, and it was not fantasy, it was the mind itself awakening, discovering a freedom that no walls could contain. These examples reveal a crucial truth: freedom is not a gift granted by circumstances. Freedom is a discovery. It is something that arises when we turn inward, when we train attention, when we practice stillness, when we recognize the mind's vast potential. It is found in the quiet awareness that observes suffering without being consumed by it, that witnesses anger without reacting, that touches compassion even in the midst of pain. So when we read about meditation in monasteries, about Samadhi, or about the subtle layers of consciousness revealed in sleep yoga and dream practice, we are not encountering abstract philosophy alone. It is a blueprint for transformation, for turning any prison, physical or mental, into a field of liberation. These teachings remind us, again and again, that no matter the external circumstances, the inner domain of consciousness remains ours to cultivate. And in that inner domain lies freedom. It is not given, it is realized. It is not bound, it is awakened. It is the mind discovering its own limitless capacity to respond with wisdom, compassion, and presence, even in the darkest of places. Everyday proofs of the Buddha's promise. Every single day, in quiet and often unnoticed ways, people demonstrate the truth of the Buddha's promise, that freedom of mind is possible, even amid life's relentless pressures. These are not grand miracles, but subtle awakenings, small, personal moments of transformation that reveal the immense potential within us. It is in these small moments that the teachings breathe and take form. Consider a mother suffering from chronic insomnia. Night after night, her mind races, worries spinning endlessly. Yet when she begins to focus on her breath, to anchor herself in the simple rhythm of inhalation and exhalation, a remarkable thing happens: the tension softens. The anxiety that once dominated her evenings now becomes a passing presence, like leaves floating down a stream. It is as if she discovers a quiet sanctuary within herself, untouched by the noise outside. Or think of a student, paralyzed by fear before exams, consumed by the terror of failure. Through daily meditation, she learns to observe her fear rather than be swallowed by it. She notices it rise, swell, and finally dissolve, much like clouds drifting across an open sky. It is in this witnessing, this gentle attention, that she tastes a freedom she never thought possible, the freedom to meet fear without being controlled by it. Even in the corporate world, transformation quietly unfolds. A young executive, constantly under the weight of deadlines and stress, begins a simple practice of mindful walking, noticing each step, each breath. Gradually, the urgency that once gripped him begins to soften. Decisions that once triggered panic now come with clarity. He realizes something profound: it is not the absence of pressure that brings peace, but the presence of attention itself, allowing the mind to navigate challenges with steadiness and ease. These moments, small samadhis, are the seeds of enduring change. They are glimpses of what the Buddha promised, flowering in daily life. Each act of mindful attention, each pause to breathe, each awareness of the present moment strengthens the mind's freedom. It is in these seemingly ordinary lives, in these quiet victories, that the extraordinary truth of inner liberation is revealed. Every story, no matter how small, testifies to the same reality: liberation is possible. It is not something distant or unreachable, it is alive here, in the mind that chooses presence over distraction, stillness over chaos, and compassion over reaction. In these everyday proofs, the teachings are not abstract concepts, it is living, breathing, unfolding right in front of us, offering a path toward enduring peace and freedom. Towards your own awakening. You may be wondering how to begin this journey, how to take the first steps toward your own awakening. And it is natural to feel uncertain, because there is no single, secret technique that guarantees instant samadhi, no magical formula that instantly frees the mind. But this is not a cause for discouragement. There are signposts along the way, subtle markers of progress, gentle hints from the path itself. It is in noticing these signs that the journey truly begins. The Buddha's teachings, his stories of wisdom and insight, illuminate this path. They are not distant or inaccessible, they are guidance for the attentive mind, mirrors held up to show the way. You have already begun, simply by asking these questions, by sensing that there is something in life deeper, more expansive than the surface of everyday existence. It is that curiosity, that quiet spark of awareness, that is your first step toward awakening. Cultivate mindfulness in the rhythm of your daily life. Watch your breath as it rises and falls. Notice your thoughts as they appear and fade. Observe your reactions to the world around you, as if you were a kind, curious friend. When fear, worry, or a troubling thought arises, pause and ask, can you step back and see it clearly, without being swept away by it? Can you watch it, as it moves across the screen of your mind, without clinging, without judgment? It is in these moments of observation, these small acts of noticing, that freedom begins to take root. Even in something as ordinary as falling asleep, there is a practice of gentle awareness. Buddha advised, let your last thoughts of the day be calm, wishing well for all beings, may all beings sleep peacefully. By bringing this quiet intention to the threshold of sleep, you create space for gentler dreams, a mind less tangled in fear and distraction. It is in this simple, daily cultivation of awareness that profound transformation quietly unfolds. And so, do not wait for extraordinary circumstances to begin. Do not expect sudden insight or miraculous experiences. Instead, trust the small movements of consciousness. Each time you notice a thought without reacting, each time you pause before fear or anger, each time you rest in calm awareness before sleep, it is like planting a seed in fertile soil. Over time, these seeds grow. Over time, they bloom into deeper understanding, into lasting peace, into your own awakening. It is your journey, quietly unfolding, waiting for attention, patience, and gentle curiosity. It is your path to discover that inner freedom, that deep stillness, that luminous presence that has always been there, simply waiting for you to notice it. Dreams, lucidity, and the practice of compassion. If the world of dreams intrigues you, if you have ever woken with a fleeting memory of a strange or vivid vision, consider recording it. Keep a journal by your bedside and jot down anything that lingers from the night, fragments of landscapes, faces, emotions, or odd events that seem to defy logic. It is in these small records that the mind begins to reveal its hidden patterns. As you become familiar with your dreams, start looking for dream signs, the subtle markers that indicate when you are in the dream state. Practice the habit of asking yourself upon waking, "Am I dreaming?" Then, carry this same question into waking life. Pause throughout the day and wonder, is this reality also a dream? Over time, this gentle questioning trains awareness to extend across states of consciousness. Eventually, with patience and consistency, you may find yourself becoming lucid even in sleep, peeking behind the scenes of your own mind, and realizing the remarkable flexibility and creativity it holds. It is a doorway into understanding that the boundaries between the inner and outer, the dream and the waking, are not as solid as they appear. Yet, awareness alone is not enough. Above all, cultivate compassion, for others, and just as importantly, for yourself. When anger flares, when fear tightens around your chest, pause. Breathe. Bring gentle attention to the sensations, the tension, the swirling thoughts. Imagine how you would counsel a friend experiencing this same struggle. Often, we find it easier to extend kindness outward than inward. It is this inward kindness, this turning of love toward oneself, that begins the profound work of transformation. And when faced with wrongdoing or attack, consider the wisdom embedded in the Buddha's teachings, as echoed by Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, respond with love. Do not add fuel to the fire of anger, do not allow resentment to grow roots in your heart. It is, in fact, a more intelligent, a more wise, and a far-reaching action than reacting in hostility. By choosing compassion over vengeance, by choosing patience over reactivity, you shift not only your own inner state but also the environment around you. Your mind becomes a sanctuary instead of a battlefield. Through these practices, mindful awareness in dreams, gentle observation of thoughts, and compassionate action, you cultivate a life in which freedom and presence coexist. It is not sudden or forceful, it is quiet, subtle, yet transformative. It is the mind learning to breathe, to open, and to shine its innate clarity into every moment. In the end, it is through these small, consistent acts that the profound awakening of consciousness becomes accessible, tangible, and alive in your own daily life. A final word, hope and inner freedom. Finally, remember these words of hope drawn from Buddhist psychology: inner freedom is not only possible, it is always within reach, under any circumstances. Even in moments of deepest doubt, when the world feels heavy and every direction seems blocked, some hidden part of you knows that another way exists. It is that secret part, quiet yet resilient, that whispers to you, you can rise above suffering, you can discover peace even in turmoil. The practices of Samadhi, mindfulness, and gentle meditation are simply invitations to explore this inner terrain, to uncover the freedom that has always been present. Each time you let go of a clinging thought, each time you watch reality as a passing dream without grabbing onto it, it is as if you are loosening another link in the chain of samsara, freeing the heart from its habitual constraints. Each small act of attention, each pause to observe without reacting, carries the weight of transformation. Hidden truths await those who dare to journey within, those who are willing to look beyond the surface of life. The Buddha pointed to these truths through stories, parables, and skillful words. All phenomena are like a dream, ephemeral and insubstantial. The heart can be freed, resilient and luminous. Deep stillness underlies the storm, a quiet core that remains untouched even amid chaos. It is in recognizing this, in seeing the still point beneath the turbulence, that the mind begins to rest naturally, effortlessly, and fully. These teachings do not promise a life without problems. They do not suggest that suffering or difficulty will vanish. But they do reveal a remarkable possibility. It is possible to step into a peace that coexists with problems, a silence that no one can take from you, a joy that persists even in loss. Even when you cannot see the end of the path, even when the journey feels uncertain, you can return again and again to the simple, transformative instruction of the Buddha: do not react with hate or despair, simply rest in awareness. And in resting, truly resting, you begin to notice it, the subtle, radiant presence that has always been there, the inner freedom waiting quietly, patiently, to be recognized. It is not earned, it is not achieved by force, it is discovered. It is your own mind, awake, luminous, and at peace. So even as life continues with its challenges, let this be your steady anchor. It is possible to awaken, it is possible to love, it is possible to be free, right here, right now, within your own heart. The invitation to awaken. Let this be your personal invitation, a gentle, radiant call to lay down the heavy story of being a separate, desperate self. Day after day, most of us carry this weight, thinking we are defined by our fears, failures, and desires. It is this story, this narrative of separation, that keeps the heart restless and the mind entangled. But imagine letting it fall away, even just a little, noticing that beneath all the worries, beneath all the layers of identity, there is something vast, something quiet, something unshakable. Open yourself to the possibility that you are much more than the temporary self you cling to, vast like the open sky, still as the night, luminous as the moon reflected in a calm lake. If you practice, gently and consistently, noticing your inner world with curiosity and care, there will come a point, a subtle, quiet moment, when the final veil lifts. In that instant, a deep recognition arises. You will see, clearly and directly, the profound truth at the heart of Samadhi. Inner freedom is not a distant goal to be attained, it is not something outside you to strive for. It is already present. It is to be remembered, to be awakened to, the natural state of your own heart when it rests free of grasping and resistance. The Buddha offered a luminous teaching that captures this insight perfectly. All conditioned phenomena are like a dream, like dew on a lotus or a flash of lightning. Thus shall you see them. These words are not abstract philosophy, it is a living instruction, urging you to recognize the ephemeral nature of every thought, every fear, every attachment. To see reality as it truly is, delicate, fleeting, and radiant, is to glimpse the freedom that has always been your own. So step into your life with the curiosity of a dreamer who is awake, who notices the subtle textures of each moment, who watches as the ordinary shifts into the extraordinary. Pay attention to your breath, to your thoughts, to the quiet spaces between sensations. Notice how even the smallest moments, a smile, a pause, a kind thought, can awaken it, the living, breathing awareness of your heart fully present. It is here, in the unfolding of each day, in the ordinary moments of life, that true freedom quietly blooms. Let it be your constant companion, your steady guide. It is not earned, it is not distant, it is already within you, the awakened mind, the calm heart, the luminous clarity waiting patiently for recognition. And when you realize it fully, when the veil finally lifts completely, you will know, it is always there. It is your own mind, your own heart, radiant, free, and unbound. If this message, this reflection, this glimpse into the path of mindfulness and awakening touched you in some way, if it stirred even a quiet recognition or a flicker of curiosity within your heart, then consider joining us on this journey. It is an invitation not just to watch, but to step into the living practice of presence. Subscribe to Bodhi Sensei and become part of a community dedicated to exploring awareness, cultivating stillness, and bringing mindful attention into everyday life. Hit the notification bell so that each new teaching, each gentle reminder, finds its way to you, guiding your attention back to the present moment when life grows busy or chaotic. And don't keep this experience to yourself, let it ripple outward. Share one small joy you noticed today, one subtle miracle of awareness, in the comments below. Maybe it was the warmth of sunlight on your face, the sound of laughter, the quiet of early morning, or the feeling of a breath fully observed. It is in these small, mindful observations that transformation begins. I read every comment, and each one becomes part of a shared moment, a collective practice of noticing, appreciating, and awakening together. So take this step. Let it be more than words on a screen. Let it be an opening, a gentle doorway into a life lived with more attention, more curiosity, and more freedom. It is waiting for you, the quiet, radiant awareness that is your own, patiently inviting you to recognize it in every ordinary moment.